Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've definitely got a pretty interesting combination of a little bit older of a shell with a much newer choke that has a constriction that might work out surprisingly well with these particular shells, or it could be a little bit of a flop as well. I really don't know quite what we're going to see, but it's definitely going to be interesting to try it either way. But as for the shells I've got today, I brought out some more of the old Federal Mag-Shok turkey loads here. They are a 12 gauge, 3-inch, 2-ounce load of lead 4s, moving about 1175 feet per second. Now, Federal does not make these Mag-Shok turkey loads anymore, so when I found these on the shelf at one of my local shops, I had to pick them up and see what they could do. Last time we tried them through a fixed full choke barrel, and they did okay, but now we're going to start moving into some actual turkey chokes and seeing what they can do. They are not a flight control load, but they do have a wad, and they are buffered and copper plated, so that should help them out some, and maybe they perform better than a flight control wad would through a lot of these turkey chokes. I don't know, so we'll see what we get. But as for the setup we're going to run them through, I brought out the Remington 870 special purpose. This one's got a 24-inch Carlson's barrel on it, and for the choke we're running, I've got an HS Strut UnderTaker XT HD choke. A lot of letters and stuff, but I believe that stands for extreme high density in their kind of nomenclature, if you will. It's a 675 constriction, but there's nothing fancy about it going on the inside, and at 675 it might work out pretty well with this 4-shot here today, so we'll see what we can get from it. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the turkey target at 40 yards and the chrono so we can get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see how the old Federal Mag-Shok 4s can do through this UnderTaker XT HD. In theory, it should be a pretty good choke constriction and stuff for the shells, but they are a Federal load, so you never know quite what you're going to get when it comes to their turkey stuff. So let's take our shot and see what we get. Alright, so that shell gave us 1246 through the chrono. Boss claim is 1175, so we are a little bit above that, which is a little surprising considering we have a 24-inch barrel, but I believe they were a little bit above their claim the last time we tested them as well. So it seems like low to mid 1200s is probably about realistic for what these are most likely typically running, and they are a pretty hot shell in the recoil department as well. But let's head down there and check out our pattern and see what we actually got out of them through that 675 HS Strut. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and I gotta be honest, this really isn't too bad of a pattern, all things considered. For a Federal turkey shell, it actually looks halfway decent. We absolutely have a dead bird there. There's a number of them down through the spine, and as you can clearly see, it's a pretty even spread of them across that turkey paper. There's no major voids in there, except right up here along the very top right edge of it, but that's kind of starting to get towards the edge of your pattern anyway. But there's nowhere left or right there that he can move to and get away from you. It's a pretty nice and even spread, and looking at that, I wouldn't hesitate to hunt with that out to 40 yards. A number 4 that gives you that kind of evenness across the paper can be a little tricky to come by sometimes. Now, outside of that, we definitely have a little bit of sporadic stuff around the edges, maybe a couple of flyers down there low, nothing too major. The same for over here on the right, a couple of flyers, maybe a little bit of sporadic stuff, but for a little bit older school lead 4 shell, that's really not a bad pattern. We have seen tighter patterns from lead 4s from like the Winchester Longbeard shells, but ultimately I kind of like how that performed. That would be about perfect for somebody that likes a little bit more breathing room to work with. You don't necessarily have a super hot core, it's just kind of an even spread until you get to the outer edges of your pattern. That's absolutely capable to 40, and it would give you a little more wiggle room in at closer ranges. So for somebody that likes a little bit more broad and even of a pattern, that's not a bad option for you right there at all. But I do think for the other side of the crowd that would prefer that to be tightened down just a little bit, I think we can probably go down in constriction to either a 670 or a 665, and these might be a really nice performing shell. This is already better than anything I've seen out of something like the Federal Grand Slam shells, which are kind of today's more modern equivalent of these. However, they added a flight control wad, and so far I'm kind of liking these better, which has kind of been the case with a lot of Federal turkey loads and Remington turkey loads loads too, for that matter, but their older stuff seems to perform a little bit more consistent and a little better. Either way, it's just a solid turkey pattern overall. The middle 12 inches or so looks very nice, nothing to complain about there. You can get a little picky about the edges if you want to, but it's a lead 4, and I'll take that pattern for what that shell and choke combo is. That's a $20 choke or something, I think. HS Strut stuff is generally pretty affordable, and I think I got that box of shells for like $12.99 or something for 10 shells. So just a solid performing combination overall. It would get the job done just fine. Might not be the screaming tight pattern like a longbeard shell would give us, but I don't really think there's a ton to complain about, and we can probably still tighten it down a little bit too with the right choke. So overall, I'm happy enough with the performance, all things considered, with what that shell is and the choke we put it through. So not bad overall. And here's the wad from that shell. Very basic design. I think it might be a touch short, so you might have a few pellets sitting over the top of it when it's loaded in that shell, but really no major damage. A couple little pinholes up here, but that choke does have porting in it, so that's no surprise. Other than that, a little bit of buffer down in there, but everything looks perfectly fine. Nothing out of the ordinary on this one. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that result right there? For a federal load, that's probably every bit of 10, 15, maybe 20 years old, potentially at this point. I'll take that all day long. It's a lead 4, which can be a little bit picky at the best of times, through a pretty budget-oriented choke as well. There's really not a ton to complain about. That would simply get the job done for you. I think if we want to get a little picky, we can probably tune those edges in a little bit more with a touch more constriction. 670 might be the ticket, or it could even be 665. I don't know. We'll just have to try it and see. Either way, for a federal turkey load, we're off to a great start with these when we run them through an actual turkey choke. Not a ton to complain about there, and we can definitely get a little more out of them. So coming into it here, I kind of thought we would see an okay pattern based on what I had seen previously from these shells, but that might even be a touch better than what I thought. So I guess leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you ever tested or run any of those old Federal Mag-Shok turkey loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is that a pattern or a combo that you would hunt with? Or would you still prefer to see it a little bit more tuned in than that? And what other chokes do you want to see us run those shells through? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox, where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.